had been on that land, and you do have a certain respect for it, and we didn't know where to go other than something had to change if we're going to continue to make a living doing what we were doing, and that is taking that step. And at that time there was no security in it, because we were put on the organic truck one day and off the next, and it just kept bouncing around. But our patience did pay off, and as you will see probably through the presentation, it was a good I'm on the PA now. Okay, well, as I was saying, it did pay off for us, and you'll see on the PowerPoint some of the steps. I think that I'm just going to leave it go to questions and fill in as we go, because it's just get started.
And then at any time, if there's any questions, please interrupt.
We got one right now.
Well, I'm wondering about the recombinant bovine growth hormones into your dairy farmers. Is this specifically for crops?
The bovine growth hormone, that is injected in cows, and obviously everybody knows about the BGH milk, but it's not a part of our practice by any means.
But you are mostly talking about genetically modified grains?
Well, the BGH is injected in the animal,
Yeah,
and the crops are seed altered, basically, modified.
Well, the organic certification encompasses the cattle, the land, the crops, everything, from pretty much from start to finish. So we would be talking somewhat about genetically modified and also about synthetically produced or manufactured hormones, which is what BGH is. But there are a whole host of these things that are used in industrial or conventional agricultural food production.
But the word organic tells me that you do not use those substances.
Nothing synthetic.
Kevin?
Yep.
Is Organic Valley, they seem to be the only producer that's kind of reaching out this far. It's my understanding that they're not taking on any more dairy farmers.
Well, with the slowdown in the economy, our sales had flattened. We had gone through 20 plus years of 20% growth a year. And then with the slowdown in the economy in the last year, our sales had flattened out. So we had gone from 20 to 28% growth down to a flat market. So we stopped taking producers on in an effort to maintain the pay price to our current producers. And in fact, we had taken over Kemp's or Hood Organic Company. They produced the Stonyfield fluid milk. They purchased the Stonyfield label for fluid milk. And when the economy tightened up, H.B. Hood wanted to get out of the organic business because they were losing some money. They had just started at the wrong time, so to speak. So we picked up that group of producers and kept them in their own market. So I guess we've gone to a position of trying to save markets for producers and come out of a situation where we had been growing 20% a year. So basically we shifted gears and just tried to protect ourselves until the economy straightened out, and now our sales have taken off again in the beginning of 2010. So we're looking at adding producers sometime after August of this year. We may be adding some new producers. So
Well, it sounds like it was probably a good idea and a smart thing, just kind of stabilize the ship, in other words.
yeah, and typically what we do is try to protect the producers we have, and whatever means that takes. We also implemented a supply management program, which Gary's pretty familiar with. But we realized that if we wanted to have a sustainable price for our producer, we really needed to have a handle on production. Because if you keep flooding the market, like you've seen the car companies where they built more cars than they could sell and they got into trouble. And what we needed to do was have a grip on our raw products. So our producers voted on a supply management program, and was implemented a year ago in July. And it has really righted our ship. We were quite long on milk. We were selling some milk conventional, and we did a 7% quota on our producers. So for instance, Gary was set with a base of his production in a year's time, and then he was allocated or fitted with a 7% reduction off of that production. So we were estimating being 7% oversupplied. So that's how we came up with these numbers. So if Gary produced the normal amount of milk for a year, he had a 7% of his milk he got paid conventionally for. So, you know, we're quite different than most co-ops. We're really a true co-op. So when things don't go well, like when the economy got bad, it's really a collaboration between management and the producers and the board of directors. And so we come up with, you know, basically it's a problem-solving group. And
Do you support raw milk?
I think raw milk is excellent. Personally, I grew up on raw milk. I don't think there's anything better. Professionally, I go along with whatever the state determines. You know, on the business side is being a representative for Organic Valley. Whatever's legal with the state is my position. Personally, I think raw milk is awesome.
So right now, with everything going through with bills, are you guys doing anything to help support farmers who?
Many of our producers are involved. We do have producers with Organic Valley that market raw milk. And as a co-op right now, we're putting together a plan. Obviously, we have accounting and stuff that we have to be aware of, so we need producers to continue to ship a certain amount of milk because it costs a certain amount of money to pick that milk up. So we are going to put some limits on producers, assuming this gets passed. We do pick up milk in states where it is legal, so we have the need for a policy. I suspect what our policy is going to be, we're going to allow our producers to ship a certain percentage of their milk or sell a certain percentage of their milk as raw milk, but they'll have to maintain a minimum pickup at the farm site for our trucks.
Are you going to talk a little bit about your product line, what all
Yes.
you have? Are you into like goats?
Now also, I have a table set up in the schoolhouse, and I have some single serves in a cooler there. So if any of you are interested, I have white milk and chocolate milk in the cooler. There's some coupons for product. There's some brochures that list all of our products, our dairy, beef, pork, poultry, eggs, juice are all listed in there, so you can see our full line of products. On all of the brochures out there, our website is on. So if you're wondering where to purchase these products, go on the website and there's a store finder. And then also there is a calculator on there. So you can put the products, if you go to the store and buy organic milk and juice and cheese and so on, you put the products in the shopping cart, and we'll get into the presentation here. And it'll tell you how many pounds of synthetic nitrogen, how many pounds of pesticides you kept off the land by your purchase. So it's a pretty neat thing, really neat to look up.
How do you know if they're being responsible?
Pardon me?
They're organic farmers. I mean, how do you know if they're being responsible?
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad.
Well, obviously, we have an inspection every year, and there's a ton of paperwork, and I mean, that really is.
Also, I mean, I've seen or heard a lot about organic being worse than the environment also.
How so?
Worse for apples. Organic apples tend to be really bad for the environment.
How so?
Organic means no synthetic chemicals.
So you think synthetic chemicals are better for the environment?
That they're using are worse for the environment than, I mean, it's not all of them. How do you know which organic ones are?
USDA seal. Anything that you purchase organically, we'll get into that, but the USDA seal is what you really need to look for if you want truly organic produced products.
That's friendly to the environment also, or?
What the seal gives you is a guarantee of what's not in it. Anybody that's certified organic and can put the USDA label on comes with a set of written rules that are regulated and farms are inspected, and they have the opportunity to do spot checks, subpoena all financial records, take soil samples, leaf clippings. So it's the certification process is quite involved, and then you open yourself up to the probability of spot checks, which at any time they can come on your farm and do a complete audit.
You have to have labels for everything. I mean, right now I'm just planting, but I mean, I have to have every grass mix, everything that has a background. You have an OMRI list that you must follow. If you go off that, the inspector, she goes through your books, so if you made a purchase that doesn't match that, obviously there's a flag, and you will have to prove that you didn't. I mean, it's a fairly thorough investigation. They can do blood tests, they can do anything at any given time. So, and I don't think, it does happen, but that's why they have to keep the rules that stringent. But I think most people do this for other reasons. I mean, protecting the soil, producing food for families, that's what most of us do it for, knowing we're doing the right thing in our hearts.
And then I know 2 people that are in organic apple production. One of them's a CFO of Organic Valley, and another one is a coordinator for Organic Valley. And one of the things for bugs in the apples that they use is chickens, hogs, and ducks. The orchards are fenced, the animals run freely through the summer months in there, and it's what they use to control bugs. On some of the vegetable crops, I don't know, I'm not real familiar what they use for bug control, but biotoxin is okay for organic use. And that's like BT corn, the biotoxin is injected into the DNA of the corn or in the genetic chain. That was one of the issues that organics had with BT corn, because when you put it into every cell in every plant, eventually bugs are going to become immune. So the organic industry really didn't want to see BT corn, because eventually you're going to have bugs immune to biotoxin.
We should get started on this.
Pardon me?
We should probably get.
Yeah. So Organic Valley's mission statement is we are a marketing co-op. So we try to support our producers with a sustainable price by providing them a market. And we promote regional diversity, both economically and on the farm, and we encourage people to be very diversified.
Is there a light switch to turn off for that so they can read that better?
I think she had turned them on up there.
There was something right up there.
There you go.
Thanks.
A little background on Organic Valley. Organic Valley was founded in 1988 by 7 farmers. In the 80s, there was a farm crisis. Interest rates were really high. There was a group of farmers in the Coulee region, which is southwestern Wisconsin, and they got together, and our CEO of our company, or our co-op, actually sat down with one of the other producers and hand wrote the first dairy organic standards. And they're in our main office. The handwritten version is still there. And then right now we are marketing dairy, eggs, juice, meat, produce, and a soy drink. We 2 labels that our primary market is under. Organic Valley covers our juice and our dairy products. Organic Prairie is all of our meat brands. Organic Valley also is our branded for our eggs. The logistics company is our distribution. We built a distribution center in Kiehnau, and we have a company that delivers not only Organic Valley products, but products from all over the country. We use our distribution center in Kiehnau as a collection point. So we have, I think there's like 9 different organic companies that bring product into Kiehnau, and Organic Valley's distribution and logistics company does the hauling out. Headquarters is in Lafarge, Wisconsin. It is a town of 742 people. The main office employs about 425. So our office building population is almost equal to the town that it's in. When we built the headquarters, there was some talk of moving closer to La Crosse or Madison to be closer to a larger metropolitan area. And the management team and the producers decided that that just wasn't who we were. We were a small town, we were Lafarge, so that's where we built our main headquarters.
And actually, George, the CEO, he still is the head, and most
One of the
others.
original farmers.
And it's the respect for each other. I mean, it's really a fun place to be a farmer working with, because you can talk to any of them and they will listen, no matter what the small point may be.
These are just a couple of, the NOP, or National Organic Programs definition, and then Organic Valley's definition. They're very similar. We're more grassroots. But our producers, well, for me in particular, working with people that are new, because part of my job is to recruit new producers along with manage other areas in the country. And it try to instill a real feeling for nature, and these people, a lot of people, start looking at organics, they believe in the concept, and initially they may certify organic because of the stable, sustainable pay price, but in time, when they see the changes in the soil, changes in the animal health, people really begin to understand that it's not just a label that you use, but it's a way of life. And I'll get a little bit about some of the changes we've seen, when we certified. But we had, I was shipping conventional milk, obviously, before we certified organic, and they had, I think I was the third highest herd average in Door County at the time. But had a veterinary checks twice a month for cystic ovaries. Largely, most of the problems I had on the dairy herd had to do with reproduction. And you learn very quickly when there's a weak link in the system, the first place it shows up is with reproduction. So if you start to screw up your soils and your plants aren't picking up the proper nutrients, one of the first places you'll see it is in the reproduction, the reproductive system of the animals. And the same thing is for people. The next time you go in for a physical, ask your doctor how many reproductive problems they'd seen in people 20 years ago and how many reproductive problems they're seeing in people today. A lot of it has to do with your food you're eating and what's in it and or what's not in it. I get a lot of people asking me, why does our milk taste different? Or do we put more fat in our milk? And we hire our processing done, so we don't even bottle our own milk. Dean Foods and HP Hood does most of our bottling, and the fat levels for 1%, 2% in skim milk are set by the federal government. The reason our milk tastes different is the nutrient density is much higher. And there's a lot more trace elements. Even the milk looks, like skim milk may look a little bit blue if it's conventional milk. Our skim milk looks a lot whiter. So even the appearance is different. People tell me that it lasts longer in the refrigerator. All of these things go into nutrient density. And that's one of the reasons where most of our producers see a difference in their herd health. When the cattle usually it takes about 3 or 4 years, I would guess, before they really start to see differences.
Well, I think when you begin getting into organics, the first thing you do learn most about is the animals. You see the effect, but it's learning about the soil. And you need to find out and build and get that corrected. Once that gets working the right way, the animals, obviously you can start to see their change. And as Kevin said, pretty soon, my herd health to this day are just incredible. But, there's other factors. It's not, in organics, you don't have that same thought process of trying to control everything. You're watching nature and trying to fit into the system. So if production is down, you don't crank them up with more additives. You probably try to correct some other aspect by changing your pastures or doing different things like that. So I just think that it starts from the ground up, and soon the animals notice the difference, and eventually it gets into the food chain, which we all notice the difference.
Now, you had asked a question earlier about GMOs or genetically modified organisms. I've heard a lot, the conventional mindset is that plant's exactly the same, there's no difference. Well, in fact, any genetically modified organism, every single cell in that plant is different. It contains an extra amino acid. When Gary and I buy seed, we're supposed to do a strip test if we're buying seed that's not certified organic. It's as simple as taking some kernels of corn, for instance, putting it in a cup, grinding it up, add some water, grind it up, and take a strip test. They tag the amino acid. If the strip turns purple, it's genetically modified. So, don't think that because people say it's exactly the same or because it looks the same, it's the same. It's not. Every single genetically modified plant has an extra amino acid in it. When they inject that gene in there, that's what they're doing. They're adding an amino acid. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein.
I'm also reading that it includes pesticides like Roundup. And if you eat some of this genetically engineered corn, which is showing up in our food supply, that the Roundup can remain in your intestines.
Well, they don't inject Roundup directly into the plant. What they do is alter the plant genetically so it can tolerate Roundup. Roundup is, if you don't know, is a contact herbicide that's considered to be one of the safest herbicides there are on the market. Well, there's research coming out now that Roundup actually has a 10-year half-life. It stays in the soil. It gets woken up by phosphorus. Glyphosate is what Roundup is. And it stays in the ground dormant. And when you add the chemical or the diammonium or monoammonium phosphate or ammonium phosphate, it wakes the Roundup up again. There's just some professors who retired from Purdue University and wrote a paper and spilling the beans on the Roundup. That was supposed to be a safe herbicide. And they're doing research now on what that means long-term for humans. Like DDT or lead arsenic, all these chemicals we've seen come and go were all safe at the time they were being used. And as time goes on, you find out that they're not safe.
Atrazine, Bladex, I mean, every one of them, and they're all gone. I know Paul Detloff, the vet that works with Organic Valley, he mentioned that when he became a vet, not a single item in that vehicle now is legal. So, I mean, within 15 years, everything he used for treatment, and unfortunately, this stuff doesn't leave the human body from what the reports are coming out at. But, well, it's not in our product, so.
And then synthetic hormones too. I think the next big thing you're going to start seeing research on is reproductive hormones in animals, and they're used to some degree in people too because of our diets and so forth, and you start to see problems with the reproductive organs. But there's prostaglandins, ECP, GnRH. I mean, there's a list of reproductive hormones that are used in cattle. And these are some of the same things. For letdown, what's the hormone?
Oxytocin.
Oxytocin is one that you use in cattle. If they have a hard calving, you give them a shot of oxytocin. It'll help shrink the uterus up. My wife had a C-section with our first daughter. As soon as the C-section was over, the doctor gave her 4 cc's of oxytocin IV, and I could stand there and watch the uterus contract. It was absolutely incredible. But these are some of the same hormones that they use in cattle that they correspond to people as well. And the argument that I would make, a lot of new producers say, well, why can't we use this or why can't we use that when we're certified organic? Because all these Band-Aids help with management. It is, if it's injected in the cow, it's in the milk. There's no discussion. That's why there's withholding on some of these things. The hormones in the dairy cattle, there is no withholding on them, but that's why there's withholding on antibiotics. Conventional producers can use antibiotics, and each antibiotic has its own withholding. So quite literally, anything that's injected in the cow is in the milk. There's no question.
By withholding, you mean there's a time between
Yes.
using the antibiotic that you can use the milk?
Now, I haven't used antibiotics on any animals in 20 years, but from what I can remember now, penicillin is...
It's like a week or something, and then meat is like 21 days. It's hard because we haven't used them for that long, but you know, they're out there. It is.
Yeah, you get away from it, and then you don't know. A lot of the antibiotics that they use nowadays didn't have when we used antibiotics.
When you get into organics, that's like falling off of a cliff for farmers, because you've been trained to do it that way, and it's so hard. It's like you're going into a dark area. Once you get in there, you start to realize there was no need, because everything else around starts to change. I mean, all of the answers come from a different area. And now it's getting much easier because there's such support out there. We have 2 vets that are on staff for Organic Valley. There's just, Moses is available out there. There's just so much resource, and with the internet, there's almost everything can be found in doing it naturally.
Don't a lot of animals, not organic, but in other farms get antibiotics routinely, and don't they think that's in their feed in that? Don't they think that's one of the causes for so many people being allergic to antibiotics?
Well, that and MRSA and staph infections, resistant organisms. There is research coming out linking, like I had said before, if it goes into the animal, it's in the meat and milk. And low-grade antibiotics is a common practice in the hog production, conventional beef production. Yeah, watch the movie Food Inc. if you get the opportunity. It goes into some of this stuff in fairly decent detail.
They just took it out of the milk replacers, which is pretty common for most dairy farmers to use. We cannot use milk replacer, even non-medicated. But it has been taken out, and I'm actually a dealer for some of these, and I carry it for the conventional farmers. And unfortunately, now that it's taken out, I can offer a supplemental pack, and they're all wanting to buy or switch to a different one because they cannot stop using it. They think their animals are going to die if they're not on antibiotics. And it's changing.
Well, the organic producers like Gary and I, well, when we had cattle, you couldn't use milk replacers. You have to feed whole milk to the calves. So it goes back to the question about whole milk. I mean, quite literally, there's nothing better for the calf. And
the fat content, the cow, I mean, the milk
it's perfect balance.
It is. It's just a perfect balance that, and with the organics, it's got, well, and we'll get into this as the thing goes with the omega milk and so forth.
And then as far as USDA label, what it ensures is no synthetic hormones, antibiotics, synthetic chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, GMOs, irradiation. Access to pasture is one thing that really, there are a lot of conventional producers that are grazing. If you don't have if you want to buy raw milk and you don't have an organic producer in the area, I would strongly encourage you to at least look for somebody that's grazing their cattle. It raises CLAs, omega-3s in the milk, makes the animals are healthier, they're out on pasture where they belong. You look at a cow, the way God made them was to graze. That's why their necks are as long as they are, that's why they have teeth only on the bottom, that's why their tongues are the way they are. They're not supposed to live in a barn and eat stored feed. That's not what they're made for. When there's grass available, they're made to be on the pasture eating grass. And when organic certification requires that. If you aren't getting a minimum 30% dry matter intake from pasture, you cannot be certified organic. It's just that simple.
I think right now, if you went by any farm, you'd see them all against the fence looking at the green. They all want to be out there.
And then this is the differences on what the USDA label means. 100% organic ingredients can sport the USDA label. 95% can sport the label, but anything under that, they can use it on the label. But it won't be the USDA organic, but they can use the word organic on the label if they have some organic ingredients. So quite literally, if you are looking for an organic product, make sure it has the USDA seal on it, because that's the only thing that comes with a set of rules that you can count on. Anything to add?
Well, I mean, and that's where it gets backed up by the inspections and the paper trails and everything else. It's proven to be what it is.
The certification requirements, Gary and I, each year after the first of the year, March or February, January, February, we'll get sent a packet of information. It'll include all new products that are approved for organic use. If there's some products that are taken off the OMRI list, it'll include all of that. And then there's forms we have to fill out. I just cash crop now, so I only do a crop form. Gary has to do the crops, the cattle, and then paper trails like feed. If I sell Gary hay or grain, he has to get a transfer certificate. So when he gets inspected, the inspector can see where his grain came from. They'll look at how many acres of corn he grows, how many acres of hay, how many cattle he has, and they can do a calculation, and they know if he's going to be short on a normal year, so they know they should be looking for transfer certificate to find out where he bought that extra feed. So it is quite involved, and like anything in life, people can cheat, and they do, until I find out about it. And then they don't cheat anymore because they're not shipping organic product anymore.
There's a question.
I'm just curious, who are you guys using for your certification? What,
We're both certified through OCI, or MOSA.
okay.
Yeah. Any Organic Valley, it doesn't matter to the co-op who you're certified through, as long as they're accredited with the USDA. The two most common ones in Wisconsin are Oregon Tilth and MOSA, and there is an agent also in the Green Bay area for OCIA. And Peggy Linsmeyer, she's really good. But MOSA certifies more dairy farms than any other agency in the country. This is just a little bit of what the farmers go through. It's 3 years on the soil. No prohibited product on the soil for 3 years to become certified. There's a one-time transition clause for dairy cattle. So for the last year of transition, the cattle have to be on 100% T3 or third year transition feed. Anything purchased feed has to be certified organic in that last year, and then the milk is eligible to be sold as organic. With beef cattle, you can bring cattle in. The cow has to be on 100% organic feed for the last trimester, and then the calf can be certified. The cow can never be certified. Any animal, beef, has to be raised from birth, actually from last trimester, has to be 100% organic feed for that animal to be certified and sold as organic.
On our forms, we also have to, they bring up environmental conditions. If we have like wind breaks, water quality controls, ditches, how it's all handled. It's a whole farm plan. And they do keep track of that, and they see if you're improving it and working with it. I mean, on the farm itself, I think we've seen several changes. I mean, one major one, the birds left for a long time, cowbirds and a lot of the other ones as well. What was it when they were talking about bobolinks?
Bobolinks and meadowlarks.
They were gone. And I mean, it's incredible to think that they go to South America, come back, and they were gone. And now our farms, where we've been certified and all this for that long, they're all establishing themselves and coming back. And it really is. That's probably one of the best jobs there is on the farm, is taking the animals out to pasture and recognizing and seeing all these changes and what's going on through nature. And it's working.
And then the difference between organic versus natural, you see a lot of natural labels in supermarkets and stuff these days. Natural is fine as long as you know the producer and know what they're doing to produce it. Natural means there's no definition, it means nothing. Natural on a label means nothing. USDA certified organic, 95 to 100% organic ingredients, has that USDA label. That comes with a set of rules that are written and enforced. There's no verification, no requirements on natural. So quite honestly, legally, they can have natural on the label and put anything in that product that they want. It has no meaning.
There's a push for that right now. And I mean, it's not poking at it, but it's the economics. And there's some of the other areas are going more natural, trying to reduce the price to undercut it. But they're not having any rules to back it up, so you're not going to be sure what you're getting. That's the problem.
You know, if you're buying locally, I know some people that are raising grass-fed beef and so on. If you know the person, know what their practices are, and trust them, that's great. Buy the stuff as local as possible. When you can't find it locally, or you don't have somebody that you know and you can trust, then look for the USDA label. Benefits of organic agriculture. Gary, you're still a producer. You probably.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there is. Unfortunately, they do reach the end of their life. And I mean, I just experienced that this week because I hated to do it before I took them out to pasture, but I had a couple of old girls that I said, it's time. And I didn't realize, one, what did I just tell you? He was 12 years old.
Two of them are 12.
Because my son was working with, who works for Organic Valley also. But anyway, she came in as a heifer, and he was only 13, and now he's 25, so actually it's more. So it's incredible, their longevity. They're just happy. Their legs get exercise, obviously, and their bodies eating the grass. And you know, each year you work harder and harder at becoming better at correcting the soil, and it keeps building organic matter and so forth, and it works. I mean, we continue to have that. At the beginning, we were nothing but wheat farmers. We still hear that, but I think because we are sustainable, we're still there. It's, you know, people see that it does work. Our yields have been affected, but not that much, and the simple fact that all of our grains seem to be so much more nutrient rich, you can tell when the animals, it all comes out the same. Obviously, the inputs on fertility, you know, we have different uses, but I mean, lately it's been probably breaking the back of most conventional farmers, and so all of these things keep adding up to be beneficial. I don't know.
Well, the environment and sustainability are two words in the organic industry that you hear a lot. Everything from pay price to how we treat the soil, how we treat the animals is all, everything revolves around sustainability and the environment. Like Gary had said earlier, and quite honestly, you know, being as an organic farmer, you try to emulate nature, work with it, not against it. Pasture benefits to livestock. The obvious ones are the fresh air, sunshine, exercise, vitamin D they pick up from the sun. Animals, if you ever get an opportunity to go to a field day on an organic farm, I have them occasionally. Take the opportunity. You can really learn a lot. It's pretty incredible. Benefits of cow. Like I had said earlier, when I was conventional, I had vet herd checks bi-monthly just to keep up on issues with the high production and reproduction issues in the cattle. After it's certified organic, I went to having a herd check, or I'd have him check a few cows when he came to dehorn calves or something like that. So maybe once every 3 months. So an incredible difference in herd health and longevity on the animals.
And the attitude of the animal. They were jumpy. I mean, they were, I don't know what to say, almost irritated before, and it seems that they're much more calmed down, but I'm guessing it's because most of our diet is a forage diet. It's either pasture or forage, and a lot less grains. And well, and then you got all the other genetically modified grains in the conventional areas. That all, I'm sure, affects the animal, how their attitude is. And being out in the open, it's amazing. And I think most organic farmers breed a little different. You don't string them out so tight. You kind of start crossing over, and that's why if you go past a lot of the organic farms.
Diversity again.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it's all about. The more you can spread yourself out, the better you're going to survive it.
But Gary brings up a good point. He's talking about animal behavior and how calm they are. There was a school study done in Appleton School District some years back. I have it on DVD, but I think if you Google Appleton School Study or Appleton School Nutritional Study or something like that, it should come up. But they changed the diet. They went from pre-made foods or processed foods, took it all out. They bought as much local as they could, as much organic as they could. And the changes in the students, they had 3 liaison officers at this school. And after a couple months on this food study, the liaison officers were gone. They had 4 LD, ED teachers at the school. They were down to 1. Grade point averages came up. It was just an incredible change in this school. I'd encourage you, and there we are drawing the line again, you know, between the food and the animals, or, you know, the soil, the animal, and the people, and even a better diet can change a person's attitude and even their outlook on life. It's really incredible.
What do you think is the average number of cows that is on an organic farm?
In Organic Valley, we have about 1,400 dairy producers, and we average 55 cows per farm. The largest farm that I have in my area milks 350. They're down near Madison. It's 7 families, and they're all millers, or, you know, in all one family, but there's brothers and uncles and so on. The largest farm in our co-op is just over 1,000 cows, and that's in California. But you know, herds sizes are bigger in general there.
So basically Most of the organic farms in Wisconsin are family farms.
Absolutely.
No, they're all family farms, no matter what.
Right.
That's part of the co-op.
How much grain-based feeding is necessary for cattle?
Most of our herds will feed about 1% of body weight. So on a 1,300-pound cow, they'd feed about 13 pounds. That's the rule of thumb that our veterinarians talk about. In the conventional world, they're probably, 50, 60%?
Yeah, 30, 45 at least.
So they may be feeding up to 30 pounds, 20 to 30 pounds of grain.
That's expensive food, right?
Well, absolutely, and it's not healthy either. You know, it increases or lowers the pH in the rumen of the animal, and then it leads to hoof and reproductive. You know, everything's related again. You know.
Do you have any situations of accumulated manure, and what do you do with it if you do?
Well, Gary and I are both, being in Door County, we're in a priority watershed here. We both have manure storages. So our manure is stored in a concrete storage area, and then we haul in the spring or when the soil is appropriate, so that it can be hauled and worked in. Now I know Gary's been hauling. I don't have cattle anymore, but Gary's been hauling pretty much every day. And what he's been doing is going out and spreading manure for a day, and then they go out that evening with the disc and till it in, so that the nutrients stay right where you put them.
Do your producers have any pits?
Yes, we do have some lagoons and so on with producers in the co-op, yes.
Yeah, a lot of the year they're out on pasture again. I mean, you're out there for almost 6, 7 months. I mean, we're kind of limited up this far, and it's amazing again to see the different wildlife that works that manure. If it be dung beetles and birds and everything else, by the next, usually you try to get like a 21-day, 19-day rotation before they come back to that paddock. It's almost all broke down already.
Well, spreading it in the field isn't a problem. It's the accumulation in your different activities. How do you deal with, close to the farm buildings, etc.?
Well, in the summer months, when flies and stuff are an issue, usually there's not much around the buildings because the cattle are always out on pasture. So we don't run into too much of an issue. Usually the winter months is when the manure is stockpiled before it goes out. Peter?
When the cattle are stable, are they on bedding or are they on concrete?
I think every farm's set up a little different. All the ones I know of up here are stall barns, so they're on bedding. And I mean, there are packs, and so forth, but
so you get solid manure rather than mostly liquid manure, right?
Yeah, there are a few liquid manure operations in the co-op, but very few. Most are either bedding pack or the cattle are on rubber mats with bedding on top.
and we have to use organic bedding. I mean, all of these things keep coming into it, but I mean, it's actually watched very carefully.
And Organic Valley's required grazing of the producers before the USDA came out with the rules, so it's something that we've believed in for a long time. And it increases the nutrient density in the milk as well.
How many acres do you need per head of cattle?
For grazing?
For grazing.
It's a minimum or a maximum of 3 cows per acre depending on your climate. In Door County, I would like to see about an acre per milk cow. And then you could have your replacement in that group as well. So you might be, 1.5 animals per acre? But that's our climate up here is, we're colder and the rock's close. So you get into California or Kentucky and they're probably 3 cows per acre.
I think out of the last 5 years, we must have had a drought every summer too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult, so I mean, it's.
Then rotational grazing, Gary was saying about dung beetles and so forth and birds. Benefits to consumers, obviously with the grazing, the omega-3s, conjugated lactic acid, methane reduction. Benefits to farmers, better management practice, healthier cattle.
That last slide, I think is worth mentioning that if we're not paid, because that's probably the most common comment we hear all the time. Why is it so expensive? And I mean, it's a bugger to see our milk in the store at its price and the conventional milk right there. Well, it is, part of it is obviously a quality issue, and you're paying for a product that's worth it, but it also, we do get paid on a contract that doesn't fluctuate with the market. This co-op bent over backwards with that. We had to lower our production, but they held our pay price so we could pay our bills. And it cost a lot to stay on the farm and be a family farmer. And that is part of it. And I guess I'm not trying to wave the flag saying, you know, save us out there, but it is worth it, and you are keeping us there. And I think everybody loves to see these cows out on pasture in the green space, and that's all part of that price increase.
I think you should be waving the flag. I mean, the land.
Well, I don't want to quit.
Well,
I know that.
the land is all of ours. You know, how do you want the land treated?
Man.
Is the organic farmer winning, or is the battle still being fought?
I think, from what I see, working in the industry, I think it's the responsibility of the public. You can sit back and say the farmer should do this and that. That's a bunch of crap. It's up to you. You support with your dollars how you want to see the land and animals treated. Long and the short of it. And it'll happen. You see, University of Madison, for God's sake, is doing organic research. You know, I pretty near ran because I thought the sky was going to fall. You know, we have University of Morris is certified organic dairy. The University of Chico State is certified organic dairy. There's a university in Vermont that's certified organic dairy. They all ship their milk to Organic Valley. Things are changing, and it's because of folks like you.
Well, and what you spend here, I mean, the studies have been out there, and I'm sure most of you have read them. What you spend on your food offsets your insurance. And I think you had a number last night. It was something like 9% to the food.
25 years ago, we spent 14% of our income on our food and 8% of our income on health care. This year, we spent 17% of our income on health care and 9% of our income on food. That's wrong.
You know, and that has to come back, and it should.
$6.50 a gallon for a gallon of good, healthy milk is not a lot of money.
Got another question?
Have you had any luck in getting any of your products into the school systems? And do you know about that Oliver guy from England?
Yes.
Who's trying to, you know, reestablish sustainable.
The Pulaski School called me 2 weeks ago. They want to bring organic milk into the school system. There's quite a few schools in California and 2 colleges where Organic Valley supplies the milk. The La Crosse, one school in La Crosse in the Lafarge district in Wisconsin. There's 3 universities in Florida that Organic Valley supplies food. Yale and Harvard have Organic Valley milk available, but it's not the only amount there. So it's really, the food industry is really grown. And then the sustainability, again, our pay price compared to the conventional pay price, just a snapshot. Again, it's just the differences. In the 20 years Organic Valley's been in business, we've kept 89.5 million pounds of synthetic nitrogen off the soil and 1.25 million pounds of herbicides and pesticides off the soil. Again, that was a calculator I was talking about that's on our website. So it's pretty incredible. I'm looking for, we had a couple slides on carbon sequestration and building of organic matter in the soil. You know, this is a difference between 1% organic matter and 5% organic matter. Organic matter is the fiber in the soil that breaks down into plant food.
I mean, right now, just to mention that calcium, I mean, you see the dandelions, you see all this other stuff, the first thing everybody does is run and go get a spray to try to stop it or get them out of there. Obviously, those are all indicator weeds to what you need to do to help the soil correct itself. I mean, there's several of them, and we could go on for a long time.
But building that organic matter, you're sequestering carbon, storing it in the soil, and it's there for use. Plants drink in or breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. So putting that carbon into the root and tilling it back into the soil is, these are the differences in different agricultural practices and the amount of carbon sequestration there is. Composting, obviously, cover crops, Gary mentioned earlier. The grazing builds organic matter in the soil or sequesters carbon. The dead zones from the runoff or the lack of organic matter in the soil to hold nutrients in place. Monoculture, corn and beans, or continuous corn, all of these things lead to situations like this. This is Rosie and Ward Burrows. It's one of our producers up in California. The owners of Organic Valley, again, they mentioned before, but the amount of synthetic nitrogen that's been taken off the land in the last 20 years is the equivalent of taking 41,270 cars off the road. So it's pretty incredible, what a small co-op can do. No pesticides, regional focus. If you buy Organic Valley milk in California, it came from California. You buy Organic Valley milk in the Midwest, it came from the Midwest. You buy it on the East Coast, it came from the East Coast. Again, part of being sustainable and not trucking this stuff, fluid milk, all over the country. This is where our producers are in the country. The red are the dairy, obviously. This is more regional in Wisconsin. This is where our...
See that B up there in Door County? That was when he was in beef, but the dairy didn't even make it on there.
They'll have to change that slide.
Actually, there's 3 dairy producers that are Organic Valley in Door County. Well, more than that. I'm sorry, I didn't go.
Yeah, there's 5.
North of the Bay, I should say.
So, it's quite, you actually have Organic Valley dairy producers right here in your county. I mean, it support them. Distribution again. And just the philosophy of our co-op is to keep all things in mind: nature, people, food, healthy soils, healthy crops, healthy cattle, healthy food, healthy people. And again, the whole thing's a system. Everything's connected. We're all connected. The land's connected to us. This is our headquarters. We achieved a gold rating for being green. The insulation in the building is all denim. We did everything we could to make the building as green as possible. We actually were shooting for a silver rating and ended up with a gold rating. The way none of the windows in the building open, everything, the heating system is all designed that way. It runs on pressure in the building. The furnaces in the last 3 years have never kicked in before the middle of January. That's how efficient. We use a server room as a heat source and the other equipment in the building. It's been really incredible. Yeah, have our energy. We support our producers. We have a whole program at the co-op. Gary's going to be getting an energy audit on his farm. You probably know, if you just want to talk about that a little bit, talk about Rick Adamski's windmill.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is a whole nother part of the program. And I'll know more in the future because they're going to be doing the audit this summer.
There's been 400 on-farm sustainability programs, 34 energy efficient audits. 30% of our members use biodiesel. We have several producers with windmills that have put up with the help of Organic Valley. I have a couple of producers in my area, down in the Fond du Lac area, are putting in solar panels. And keeping farmers on the land is revitalizing the rural infrastructure. Every time a farm goes out of business, whether it's organic or conventional, it hurts the rural infrastructure, and it's something we should be very aware of. You don't have to be certified organic to do a good job of farming. I don't want to leave you with the impression that this is the only way to be sustainable, but you can be a conventional producer and use your head and use the chemicals wisely or sparingly, and you don't have to be certified to do a good job. But if you want a label that means something, look for that USDA seal.
It also, I just bring up a point that the future of organic is, but I mean, the younger people, our co-op, the average age is what, 30-something?
About 45.
45, and the average in the state is like 60, 50-something.
62.
62, I don't know. It just shows that the young people are coming into this and keeping farming going.
And these are just different websites where you can look up more information. And again, if you get on our website, it's www.organicvalley.coop. And they have a lot of links that you'd be able to travel and gather more information. There's also a store finder. Again, I have some milk and stuff out in the schoolhouse. If you want to try, I have white milk and chocolate milk out there. Please help yourself to any information. Is there any last questions?
Yeah, just what about the milk in the stores under their own store label, the organic milk?
That you don't know for sure. Usually the dominant brand in the store does the private label.
Yeah. Is it possible to find out that way? You know, are we supporting?
I don't know for sure, and it does change sometimes. I know a year ago, the private label at Pick and Save here was our milk. Whether it still is, I don't know. But usually the brand with the most presence there does the off-label or the private label.
Okay, good.
Are there opportunities for members of the public to have guided tours?
Yes, Organic Valley, I do field days each year. Typically, I'll run an ad in a farm paper.
Yeah, but we don't get the farm paper.
I understand that. What we could do is,
Well, if they called
well, we have
member services,
on our website too, there's a calendar.
Okay.
Or call member services at Organic Valley.
If you go to the website, you'll get that, you'll get the information.
Yeah, this was another very optimistic talk.